The sound of sirens tore through the stillness of the early evening as my car crept to a halt at the edge of the crash site. Smoke curled into the dusky sky like a warning, and the distant wail of pain and confusion made my stomach twist. I didn't know what I expected to find, but it wasn't this. There he was, my fiancé Ayan, sitting on the pavement, blood streaked down his forehead, arms tightly wrapped around her. His jacket was around her shoulders, his voice trembling as he whispered, "I thought I lost you." I didn't scream. I didn't rush over. I didn't even cry. I just watched. And in that moment, the silence between us spoke louder than anything I could have ever said. 2 weeks earlier, everything had been perfect. Or at least I thought it was. Ayan and I had been together for 3 years. We met during a conference in Lahore. Both of us young professionals trying to find our footing in the corporate world. He was ambitious, driven, and utterly magnetic. His smile could silence a room. And somehow, he had chosen me to build a future with. My name is Zoya. I'm a brand designer by trade, quiet by nature, and painfully observant in ways most people miss. I'm the kind of person who remembers the tone you use more than the words you said. The kind who notices how your eyes flicker when you lie. How your laugh changes when someone else makes your heart skip. We lived in a cozy apartment in Islamabad, not far from Margalla Hills. Every Sunday he'd bring me chai in bed, kiss my forehead and ask, "Ready to take on the world with me, partner?" And I always said yes. But there's always a whisper, isn't there? A small crack in the glass before it shatters. For me, it started with Ariba. She was Ayan's college friend, someone he swore was like a sister. She had recently moved back to town after a failed engagement, and was, as Ayan put it, just trying to rebuild. He said she needed people she could trust. I understood. I did. I even welcomed her with polite smiles, invited her over for tea, tried to quiet that instinct that said something wasn't quite right. But some instincts refused to be silenced. It was in the way he started smiling at his phone more often. The way she'd laugh a little too hard at his jokes. The subtle shift in his energy when she was around. The long drives he suddenly started taking just to clear his head. Still, I said nothing. Love makes you patient, sometimes to a fault. One evening, after dinner, I found them sitting too close on the balcony, their shoulders touching as they shared a cigarette. Ariba's hand brushed his knee, just for a second, and Ayan didn't flinch. When he came back inside, I asked, "Do you still see me?" He looked confused. "Of course I do. What kind of question is that?" I didn't press. I smiled, kissed his cheek, and went to bed. I told myself not to be the insecure one, not to ruin a good thing with suspicions I couldn't prove. But love should never feel like a competition you didn't enter. The crash happened on a rainy Thursday. Ayan had told me he had a late meeting. "I'll be home by 9, he said, kissing me quickly on the forehead. I noticed the cologne he wore, the one he only used for special occasions. My throat tightened. By 10 p.m. I hadn't heard from him. By 10:30 I saw it on Twitter. Major accident on Srinagar Highway. 2 injured. Rushed to hospital. I didn't know why I felt cold all over. I just grabbed my keys and drove. The traffic was a nightmare. The flashing lights felt like they were inside my skull, blinding and accusatory. I parked on the shoulder and walked toward the crowd. And that's when I saw them. Ayan was holding her like she was his lifeline, rocking her slightly, murmuring soft, broken words I couldn't hear. She clutched his shirt like it was home. Someone handed me a blanket, assuming I was a bystander. I stood there, wrapped in borrowed warmth, watching the man I loved hold someone else like I didn't exist. He hadn't even noticed me. That's when it hit me. He would have noticed if it had been her standing there in silence. Back at home, I sat on the edge of our bed, fingers trembling as I scrolled through his photo gallery. In a hidden folder I'd never seen before, I found it. A picture of them, arms around each other, standing beneath the neon sign of a roadside restaurant. Smiling. Alive. It was dated 2 weeks ago. The same day he told me he was working late. My breath caught, but still, I didn't cry. I waited. When he walked in the door the next morning, with bandages on his arm and the smell of antiseptic clinging to his skin, he looked tired. Ashamed. But not sorry. "I didn't mean for you to see that," he said softly. I met his eyes. "But you meant for it to happen?" Silence. I stood up, my voice calm, distant. I'll pack my things. No, Zoya, wait. It wasn't what it looked like. She was just scared. She's not the only one who was, I said. And I walked away. But something strange happened in the days that followed. No calls from Ariba. Just Ayan. Calling. Texting. Waiting outside my office. Saying he made a mistake. That the accident shook him awake. Made him realize what he was about to lose. I didn't choose her, Zoya. I just didn't stop her. And I'm sorry. I see you now. I swear I do. And now I'm standing at a crossroads, torn between the silence I gave him after the crash, and the love that still quietly burns inside me. Because the truth is, I still love him. But can I trust him again? Or is some silence just too loud to ever forget? The days after the crash blurred into something quiet and hollow. The kind of silence that fills a room not because it's peaceful, but because something has been lost. I had moved back into my parents' house, just a spare room with pale yellow curtains and the same creaky bed I used to lie on while dreaming of a life with him. My mom tried not to ask questions. My dad never liked Ayan, and now I understood why his hugs had become tighter in recent months, like he was bracing for this. But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that even after everything, I still felt him like an echo in my bones. I still reached for my phone in the morning, half expecting a good morning, partner. But all I had now were unread messages. Dozens of them. Ayan. Please, Zoya. Just let me explain. Ayan. It was stupid. I was stupid. But I never stopped loving you. Ayan. She's not who I want. You are. I never replied. But I read every single word. Ayan and I had always had something different, something slow-burning but deep. We didn't fall in love with fireworks. It was more like steady rain that soaked into your soul before you even noticed. We met at a branding workshop in Lahore 3 years ago. Two overworked, sleep-deprived professionals pretending to care about fonts and consumer psychology. He had this quiet confidence. He didn't try to impress me with grand gestures, but he listened, really listened. When I told him about my mother's anxiety, or how I hated being in crowds, or how I loved collecting postcards from cities I'd never visited, he remembered. Months later, he brought me one from Dubai. I know you haven't been yet, he said, but maybe one day we'll go together. So how did that kind of love unravel so easily? I saw Ayan again for the first time a week after the accident. It wasn't planned. He showed up at the design firm where I worked, standing at reception with wild eyes and a single white tulip, my favorite. My heart twisted at the sight of him. The bandage on his arm, the pale bruise along his jawline. He looked like he hadn't slept since that night. I asked security to let him through. I wasn't ready, but I was tired of pretending I didn't still care. We sat in the rooftop cafe on the building's terrace, the Islamabad skyline stretching around us like the backdrop of a story that had stopped making sense. You look tired, I said softly, unsure of why I started with that. He smiled bitterly. I haven't been able to breathe since that night. Since I saw you standing there. I said nothing. She was with me because I didn't know how to say no anymore. He paused. You were always calm, grounded. She was chaos, and I think I got addicted to feeling needed. She kept falling apart, and I kept trying to fix her. And where did that leave me? I asked. Was I just too whole for you? No. You were everything. That's the part one messed up. For a moment I wanted to believe him. But memory is cruel. It doesn't just replay what happened. It twists the knife by showing you what almost was. Later that night, I sat by my window, watching the city flicker with headlights and forgotten dreams. I thought back to the night he proposed, how he took me to the top of Domenico and said, I don't want fireworks. I want quiet mornings, burnt toast, arguments about which movie to watch, and love that doesn't leave when things get hard. And yet, the moment things did get hard, he turned to someone else. I kept wondering, did I miss something? Did I get too comfortable? Did he fall out of love and just not know how to tell me? Or was I just a safe option until something more thrilling came along? But in my heart I knew the truth. Ayan didn't cheat with his body first. He cheated with his heart. And that's the kind of betrayal that lingers. Still, there was more to the story. Ariba. A few days after our rooftop meeting, I received a voicemail. I almost deleted it until I heard her voice, soft, shaky, and far too familiar. Zoya. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to say this. Ayan was never mine. Not really. He kept saying your name in his sleep. Even when he was with me. I told myself he'd move on, that I was helping him heal, but the truth is, I was the one trying to fill a void that didn't belong to me. He never looked at me the way he looked at you. That night, after the crash, he wasn't hugging me because he loved me. He was terrified. He thought you had seen it all, and that he'd lost you forever. I saw it in his eyes. You don't owe him anything, Zoya. But I thought you should know the truth. I sat on my bed for a long time after that, the phone still in my hand. Did that change anything? Did the truth make the betrayal any easier to carry? I didn't know. But somewhere deep down, a crack opened in the wall I had built. Not enough to let him in, but maybe enough to stop pushing him out completely. When I finally replied to Ayan's messages, I didn't send a paragraph. I didn't demand explanations or apologies. I just wrote, "Meet me where it all began." It was vague enough to test him, but he knew exactly what I meant. Damaneko. The place where we first talked about forever. He arrived before me, standing near the railing where the city shimmered below like a bed of stars. He was wearing the sweater I'd once bought him on a trip to Murray. A deep charcoal one with tiny embroidered specks that reminded me of night skies. Still fit him like it used to, but something about the way he stood, shoulders slightly hunched, hands gripping the metal too tightly, told me he wasn't the same man. And neither was I. "Thanks for coming," he said, voice barely audible over the soft wind. "I didn't come for closure," I said. "And I didn't come because I forgive you." He turned to face me slowly. "Then why are you here?" "I came because part of me still wants to understand." His eyes softened. "Then let me explain everything I didn't have the courage to before." That's when the story shifted. When he said something I didn't expect. "I found out about your offer from Dubai. The branding agency. 2 months ago." He looked down. "You were going to leave. And you hadn't even told me." My breath caught in my throat. How did you know about that?" "I saw the open email on your laptop. I wasn't trying to spy. But when I asked you about your day and you left it out, I panicked. I thought maybe I wasn't part of your plan anymore." I felt my pulse rise. "I didn't tell you because I hadn't made a decision yet. Because I was waiting for the right time. Because I thought we still had time." "I was afraid," he admitted. "I kept picturing you leaving, finding someone more exciting, more ambitious. And then Ariba came back into my life. She was just there. Always available. Always validating. It felt good to be wanted. And I didn't make you feel that way?" I asked, hurt bleeding into my voice. He stepped closer. "You did. But in a different way. You loved me with expectations. She loved me with flattery. And I took the easy way out." I looked away. "So you sabotaged us because you thought I might choose a future that didn't include you." Silence. We stood like that for what felt like years. The next few days, something strange began happening. I started hearing whispers at work, in friend circles, even from clients, about Ayan and Ariba. Not about their affair. Something worse. Someone had leaked photos from the accident. A grainy, dramatic image of Ayan holding her in his arms, with my stunned face in the background. Unintended, unnoticed. It had gone viral in a niche circle of local gossip blogs. Suddenly, our private heartbreak had become a tragic love triangle for the world to dissect. The captions were ruthless. Corporate golden boy torn between 2 women. She watched him save another woman, and stayed silent. Even though my name wasn't directly attached, people who knew us could connect the dots. I became her. The quiet one. The one who got replaced. The one who stayed silent. It was humiliating. And the worst part? I started getting sympathy messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some were kind. Others were disguised pity. A few offered unsolicited advice about moving on. I didn't need pity. I needed peace. That same week, Ayan's company announced an internal investigation. Apparently, someone had accessed personal client data from his account, confidential brand proposals that had recently surfaced in a competitor's pitch. The person they suspected? Ariba. It didn't make sense at first, until I remembered how Ayan had casually mentioned once that he let Ariba borrow his work laptop when hers crashed. He was trying to be kind. She was collecting leverage. The last time I saw Ariba, she was seated alone at the same cafe where we used to meet for chai. She didn't look smug or heartbroken. She looked empty. When she saw me, her eyes flickered with something like guilt. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said. "But you did." She nodded. "He only ever talked about you, even when he tried not to. And when he stopped talking, I saw it in the way he looked out the window when your name came up. I told myself if I could just get close enough, maybe I could become what you were to him. I didn't say anything, because I understood. Sometimes the ache to be chosen makes people do cruel things, even to those they once called friends." Before I left, she said something I wasn't expecting. "I'm not the reason he lost you. He is. And he knows that now." That night, Ayan and I met one more time. No flowers. No dramatic setting. Just us on a quiet walk near the park where we used to play chess on weekends. "I don't know if you'll ever trust me again," he said. "And I don't blame you if you can't." I looked at him, really looked, and saw a man not begging to be forgiven, but standing open, vulnerable, and finally real. "I'm not here to rebuild the past," I said softly. "But maybe we can build something new. Slowly. With truth this time." He reached for my hand. And for the first time since the crash, I didn't pull away. We hadn't defined what we were. After that walk in the park, after I let Ayan hold my hand again, there were no labels, no promises. Just two people circling each other carefully, each step forward echoing with memories of where we'd fallen before. But some wounds don't close just because you stop touching them. They fester when ignored. And one night, everything bled. It started with a call. Ayan and I had just had a quiet dinner together at a new biryani place near F7. We sat at a table outside beneath dim fairy lights, trading old stories like we were learning each other all over again. For a moment it felt like peace, like maybe we had turned a corner. But then his phone rang, and the color drained from his face. "It's the HR director," he said. I have to take this." He stepped away. I watched him walk toward the parking lot, pacing, one hand on his hip, the other pressed tightly to his ear. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see it all in his body language. Agitation, frustration, fear. When he came back, he didn't meet my eyes. "What is it?" I asked. He hesitated. Then, "They're placing me on temporary leave. The investigation is getting more serious." "Because of Ariba?" "Yes. And now, someone's claiming I helped her leak the files." I blinked. "What?" He nodded, jaw clenched. "They're treating me like a co-conspirator." My heart pounded. "But that's not true. You'd never." "I wouldn't," he snapped, then immediately softened. "But it's her word against mine now. And I gave her access, unintentionally, but still." I felt something inside me freeze. "Do you think she's doing this to get back at you?" "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe she thinks if I lose everything, I'll need her again." The thought made me nauseous. The next morning, a courier envelope arrived at my apartment. No sender, just my name in bold ink. Inside were printouts, screenshots of messages. Private ones. Mine and Ayan's. Things we'd said to each other. Words I'd never written down. And they weren't real, they were doctored, twisted to look like I had been involved in helping Ayan cover things up. But the signature line at the bottom of one faked message said enough. "You and I are in this together. Let her take the fall if she has to." Zoya. It was a lie, but a believable one. I felt like the walls around me crumbled. I rushed to Ayan's place, heart pounding so hard I could barely see straight. He opened the door with dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same clothes from the night before. I didn't even sit. "She dragged me into this," I said, holding out the papers. "She's framing us both." His eyes scanned the pages, rage slowly replacing exhaustion. "We have to fight this," I said. "You have to tell the truth. Everything. The affair. Her access to your laptop. Your HR team can't save you if you're still hiding things." "I've told them what I could," he said tightly. "But there's more. There's one thing I didn't want you to find out like this." My throat dried instantly. "What?" He took a deep breath, then exhaled sharply, like a man unburdening a ghost. "She's pregnant." The words hit me like a slap. I blinked once. Twice. "What did you just say?" "I don't even know if it's mine," he said quickly. She told me a few days ago. Said she wasn't sure. But she's using it. Threatening to go public if I keep denying her. I couldn't speak. I just stared. Pregnant. I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. You told me you stopped it before it crossed the line, I whispered. I thought I did, he said. But there was one night. One mistake. I swear to you, Zoya. Don't, I said. Don't swear anything. Not now. I grabbed my bag and turned to leave. Zoya, please. She's trying to destroy everything. She's lying about the baby, about the files. She's dragging you into this because she knows you're my last chance. I froze at the door. Then maybe you don't deserve that chance, I said and left. I couldn't sleep that night. I stared at the ceiling of my childhood bedroom, the whirring fan above making patterns on the walls. My phone buzzed again and again. Ayan. Missed calls. Voicemails. But none of it mattered anymore. Everything was unraveling. What was left of my heart didn't know whether to ache for him or ache for myself, for how much I still wanted to believe he was better than this. The next morning, I met with a lawyer. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I needed to protect myself. If this fake paper trail leaked into the media or my workplace, it would ruin my career. And worse, my integrity. That afternoon, my phone rang again. This time, it wasn't Ayan. It was Ariba. I didn't pick up. Then she texted. If you really want to know everything, meet me at Hilltop View Apartments. Rooftop. Tonight. No tricks. Just truth. Now here I am, standing on that rooftop, the city buzzing far below, the wind cold against my skin. And there she is. Ariba. Dressed in black, arms crossed, face unreadable. You came, she said. Why? I asked. She shrugged. Because I'm tired. Of pretending. Of chasing things that don't belong to me. Of watching you suffer for a man who doesn't know how to love without hurting people. I stared at her. Is it true? Are you pregnant? She smiled faintly. Does it matter? You tell me. I told him I might be. I'm not. She walked closer. I just wanted him to panic. To hold on. But he didn't. Not really. He just looked broken. And then he ran to you. I clenched my fists. You used us both. No, she said, her voice quieter now. I used myself. I let myself believe I could be loved the way he loved you. A beat passed. Then she pulled a small USB drive from her coat pocket. I made the leaks. I forged the messages. But I'm done now. This clears you both. But especially you. You never did anything wrong. She handed it to me. I didn't take it right away. Why now? I asked. Because I couldn't destroy you, she said. And I couldn't keep pretending I ever really had him. The screen fades to black. Because right now the choice is mine. Truth is in my hand. But trust? That's a whole other storm. I stared at the USB in my palm like it was a live wire. Everything Ariba had said felt raw. Almost rehearsed. Like someone who'd finally accepted she'd lost. She looked exhausted. And when I walked away from that rooftop, I didn't feel victorious. Just heavier. I should have felt relieved. Her confession cleared Ayan. Cleared me. The worst seemed to be behind us. But that's the thing about calm after the storm. It often hides the next one on the horizon. The following morning, I plugged the USB into my laptop. My hands were shaky, heart pounding like I was about to uncover a buried body. There it was. A folder labeled Leaks. Inside were dozens of files, email drafts, client documents, even screen recordings. Evidence that Ariba had accessed Ayan's drive and siphoned out confidential information to the competitor agency. She had even created a full document detailing her steps. Like she wanted to be caught. I forwarded everything to Ayan's legal counsel with a short message. This clears you. Use it. Then I turned off my phone. For a few hours I just wanted to breathe. That night, Ayan showed up at my apartment. I wasn't surprised, just drained. He looked less broken, more focused. I'm not staying long, he said. I just wanted to say thank you. The firm is backing off. They've started disciplinary action against the competitor. My name is clear. That's good, I said softly. He hesitated. Zoya, I know we're not okay yet. But I want to rebuild slowly, honestly. No more secrets. I nodded. That starts with telling me everything, even the part that might hurt. He lowered his eyes. There's one more thing you don't know. Of course there was. I braced myself. I hired a private investigator, he admitted. A few weeks ago, after the crash when you stopped answering. I needed to know how bad things were with Ariba, what she might do next. And I asked him to look into everything. Her, the fake messages, even you. My chest tightened. You investigated me? I needed to protect myself. And you were silent. You were pulling away, and I didn't know if you were already gone. I stared at him. So instead of trusting me, you paid someone to follow me? He looked ashamed. It wasn't about spying. It was desperation. I shook my head, stepping back. That wasn't your call to make, Ayan. I chose silence, not betrayal. He swallowed hard. There's something else. The investigator found something odd. He went deeper than I asked. And he uncovered something I wasn't prepared for. My heartbeat slowed, dread curling around my spine. Ariba didn't act alone, he said. What do you mean? He pulled out a file from his coat pocket. Photos. Documents. And one picture in particular made my knees buckle. My boss, Rafiq, standing with Ariba outside a restaurant 2 months ago, weeks before the crash. Smiling. Shaking hands. Your firm's biggest client? Ayan continued. The one who suddenly dropped my agency and signed with your team? That deal was brokered through her. I couldn't speak. She sold them my confidential concepts, Ayan said. But not for money. For access. Rafiq knew if he could destroy me, your firm would win the bid. And you'd get promoted. That was the plan. He used her. And she used your name to cover her tracks. I staggered back, feeling sick. Are you saying my boss set me up to take your clients? I think you were the real target, he said. They used me to get to you. I remembered how, right before the crash, Rafiq had suddenly offered me a senior strategist position. Out of nowhere. Told me I was finally ready to lead. I'd been confused at the time. Now I understood. He'd created the perfect scandal. Made me look like the girl who stood silently while her fiancé crumbled. Then rewarded me for the fallout. Rafiq had played me from the start. The betrayal hit differently. Ariba's deception was emotional, personal. Rafiq's was calculated. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat down, legs trembling. I don't know who to trust anymore, I whispered. You can trust me, Ayan said quietly. I want to, but every time I try, there's another truth you forgot to mention. He looked like I'd slapped him. Then let me show you. Let me help you take this down. I looked up at him. At the man who had once made me feel like I was the safest place in the world. Could I really lean on him again? Could we go to war together? Or would trusting him again cost me everything? Later that night, I sat in the dark and listened to the wind batter the windows. I pulled out the old postcard Ayan gave me years ago, the one from Dubai. We'll go together someday, he'd written. Maybe that day wasn't so far away. Or maybe it never existed at all. I had always imagined the climax of our story would come in a moment of silence. Two hearts finally aligned, finding peace after the chaos. But no, it came in fire. It came with voices raised, masks ripped off, and truths so sharp they cut deeper than any lie ever could. I walked into Rafiq's office the next morning. I didn't knock. He looked up, calm, collected, sipping his coffee like the man who thought he had already won. Zoya, he said, with that fake warmth I once mistook for mentorship. I was just reviewing your client presentation. Stellar work. I dropped the folder onto his desk. Ariba's confession, the screenshots, the investigator's report. I know everything. About you. About her. About the way you used me. His smile didn't even twitch. I see Ayan's been busy spinning fairy tales again. I leaned forward, voice low and steady. You orchestrated the leak. You let Ariba use my name so it would come back to me if it ever got out. And then you offered me a promotion, just in time to keep me quiet. You have no proof I was involved, he said casually, but his fingers were now laced tightly together. Maybe not in court, I replied. But the board might be curious about your dinner meetings with her. The timing of the leak. The files she accessed on your computer. He didn't speak. I'm not going to HR, I added. I'm going public. His smile vanished. You'd destroy the entire firm's reputation over this? He asked. No, I said. You already did that. The story spread faster than I anticipated. Ariba's full confession, combined with Ayan's cleared name and the internal links to Rafiq, sparked an immediate investigation. The company tried to contain it, but it was too late. Whispers turned into headlines. My email inbox was flooded with questions, sympathy, and ironically offers. People love a woman who doesn't break. But they don't see the nights she nearly does. Ayan and I met one final time before I left the city. It was early morning, the city still drowsy, fog curling around the streets like a farewell hug. We met where it all began, Damon Eco again. But this time, the silence between us wasn't sharp. It was soft. It had room to breathe. He brought coffee. I brought a postcard. You're really going? He asked. I nodded. Not because I'm running away, but because I need space to hear myself think again. He looked down. I deserve that. I know. I'm not punishing you, Ayan, I said. I still love you. He looked up, his voice cracking. Then why does this feel like goodbye? Because love isn't always the end of the story. Sometimes it's just a chapter. We sat quietly after that, sipping coffee, letting the sunrise fill the silence we couldn't. Then I handed him the postcard. The same one he gave me years ago, the one from Dubai. I think you were right, I whispered. We'll go together someday. His hand trembled as he took it. I'll wait for that day, he said. And that should have been the end. But it wasn't. A week later, as I boarded the plane for a freelance gig in Istanbul, I got a text from Ayan. Check your inbox. Now. I opened my email and froze. A video. Ariba. Sitting in a white interrogation room. She looked fragile. Stripped down. Real. I lied about one more thing, she said, voice raw. It wasn't just Rafiq. There was someone else. She named him. A partner at another firm. One Ayan had clashed with months before. A man who wanted Ayan removed from his position permanently. Ariba hadn't just acted out of heartbreak. She was hired. And now, everything made even more twisted sense. The crash. The affair. The leaks. None of it had been coincidence. My chest tightened as the plane ascended into the clouds. The story wasn't over. But this chapter was. And for the first time in months, I felt free. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of a sunlit apartment in Istanbul, watching the Bosphorus shimmer like silk below me. The chaos of the past year had softened, not vanished, but dulled into memory, like the ache of an old scar. I had started over. Quietly, slowly. My mornings were different now. They didn't begin with heartbreak or hesitation. I woke up to my own breath, to the smell of cardamom in my tea, to a calm that didn't rely on anyone else to feel real. It wasn't easy. Healing never is. But it was mine. After the final video surfaced, the one where Ariba named the real man behind the conspiracy, Ayan's case shifted again. He wasn't just exonerated, he was vindicated. The corporate world took notice, and within weeks, he was offered a senior strategy role in Dubai. We didn't speak much after I left. A few texts here and there. An occasional, I hope you're okay. I didn't block him, but I didn't reach either. Until one rainy evening in May, my phone buzzed with a message that read, I'm here. I kept the postcard.
No explanaschen.
Just a location pin, Galata Tower, Istanbul. I didn't rush. I finished my tea, wrapped a scarf around my shoulders, and walked the cobblestone streets with a calm heart. When I saw him standing there in the drizzle, hair slightly longer, eyes tired but bright, I didn't cry. I smiled. I didn't expect you to come, he said. I almost didn't, I replied. He reached into his coat and pulled it out, the same worn postcard, still intact, a little faded now. You said we'd go together someday, he whispered. Is today that day? I didn't answer with words. I just walked forward and took his hand. A few months later, we moved into a small apartment near the Bosphorus. Nothing fancy, no huge declarations, just two people finally understanding what love should be, not perfect, not desperate, but patient, present. We took couples therapy. We talked about the hard things, We acknowledged the cracks instead of pretending they weren't there. Ayan apologized more times than I could count, not with flowers but with consistency, with truth. As for Ariba, she disappeared from the narrative. After her public confession, she relocated, quietly, privately. We never crossed paths again. And I stopped asking questions about her. Because some stories aren't meant to follow us into our future. Rafiq lost his job. The firm restructured completely. I declined their offer to return. I'd found my own rhythm, working with creative startups and ethical brands that respected boundaries. I became a voice other women could trust. And that became my real healing. I'm telling you this now, not because it was a love story wrapped in drama, but because it was a story about silence. And how sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's power. Sometimes it's the thing that lets everything else rise to the surface. When I walked away from Ayan that night after the crash, I thought it was the end. But it wasn't. It was the start of both our reckonings. Moral of the story. Love can be messy. People make mistakes, real painful ones. But healing doesn't come from clinging tightly. It comes from letting go, stepping back and asking, what do I deserve? I didn't choose to stay with Ayan because I couldn't move on. I chose him because he moved with me. Because he faced the silence and didn't run. And sometimes that's how you know it's real.